Hello, everybody. I hope that you are doing fantastic. And welcome to Michelle's Inspiration Hour. And again, I hope that each episode will bring you not only happiness or inspiration, but everything above and lots of love as well. So I am so excited to bring you this next episode. And I'm going to go ahead and, of course, make a theme, a quote of the episode, and I found this on our next guest Facebook page. And so hope that you enjoyed, and then I'll tell you all about her. So, disease is a reminder to change our ways and correct the direction of our journey toward wholeness, which is where healing takes us. So, no stranger to adversity and hard work, Traci Hill uses her professional and personal experience to help others live their best lives and equips them to handle whatever life brings them using subtle energy alchemy. Traci's life came to a crossroads when she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at age 25. She fought back by implementing healthy lifestyle changes with her holistic nutrition, education, fitness experience, determination, and grit, and successfully manages the disease with no medication. She shares her approach on the Facebook group she founded, Healing MS Naturally. So let's go ahead and bring her on to hear about all of her inspiration that kept her going. Hello,
Well,
hello.
hi, Michelle. Thank you for having me. You make me sound like a rock star. I'll tell you that much.
Well, you are a rock star. You are, because you did not get that diagnosis to put you down. You may for a little bit, but you move forward. You said, I am not going to let this get me down. So go ahead and I don't want to take your your fame away. I want you to explain about your life story, what has happened, what happened to you in the past, and how you said, I am not going to let life get in my way.
Well, thank you. Well, I was finishing up my master's degree in kinesiology. And I say that because I was really well versed in exercise. I took athletes, made them better athletes.
Oh, wow.
I was finishing up my 8 years in the Army Reserves. And I got a call. Well, I tripped in, I worked in a lab at the University of Illinois, Chicago. I just tripped. Okay. So I was in the lab, I was teaching undergrad classes, I was making athletes better athletes, and I was just kept tripping. And there's nothing on the ground, I'm like, what is going on here? And then one day, the whole left side of my body was numb, completely numb. I'm like, well, that's probably not good. So,
Mhm.
uh, if many doctors, and I actually went to like 3 or 4 neurologists in the very beginning because I'm stubborn. I will preface this. I'm very stubborn. And so somewhat helped me along this journey. But, they found lesions, about 8 lesions on the right side of my brain. And they all said, if you don't start medication, you will be in a wheelchair. And I was like,
Mhm.
wow, that's not right. In the meantime, I wouldn't say better, but things were mitigated for a while. I got a call to go on the Chicago Fire Department, which I'm still on at the moment. And it took a good year. And then I started a medication called Copaxone that was a shot every day. And that made me feel worse. I didn't understand it. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh,
If I'm supposed to be feeling better, this is not working for me. So I just took myself off and deep dove into, there's no reason why people get some of these diseases and there's no cure. So in my mind, I'm like, well, if that's the case, they obviously don't know everything. So I'm going to figure it out myself. Again,
mhm.
stubborn. So,
That's good. Very good.
so I literally took a year of and this is back in 2000, of deep diving right into what can possibly cause. And, I was bit by a tick when I was 3 and it was buried in my neck for a couple of days and I had the fever and all of that. So they tested me for Lyme disease and brain cancer and all kind of heavy metal. I got some mercury taken out of my teeth. The list goes on, and I'm sure you have listeners who can understand and
Oh, absolutely.
probably go through the same or are going
Mhm.
through the same thing. And I will tell you that the end result of all of this is just about you finding your own journey and what works for you, and don't listen to anyone else. And so,
You know, yeah, I think it is absolutely fabulous that you're stubborn. You've got that stubborn streak, and because you need it. You know what I'm saying? You need to get off the ground. And it sounds like you were so active, and it's like, hell no, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna let this get in my way. Can you share with us, because you kind of also morphed into working with your energy? And so it, for listeners that really don't understand it, what is an when you do energy alchemy? What does that mean?
I'm so glad you asked. I love talking about this. Okay, so everything's energy. We know that. Tesla and Einstein both said, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It's everywhere, it's everything. So everything is energy, quite literally. It can be measured. Everything has a frequency. So the food you eat, the chair you're sitting on, the car you're driving, the air around you, if you think of it like a radio station, it sends a frequency, and all you do is tune into whichever one you want. All of them are there all the time, but you decide which one you want to listen to. So, with that thought in mind, you tune into whatever frequency each day you want to pick up. So, if you want to tune into joy, you tune into joy. If you want to tune into anger, you tune into anger. And so, understanding that and allowing yourself to fully be able to understand that these frequencies are with you all the time, 24/7. When you understand that, you can then start to alter which frequencies you decide to pick up. And so, what I do is help people. Most of my clients are women who have families and jobs, one or the other or both. And so they don't want a huge life disruption. So if your listeners I'm sure your listeners have heard of shadow work, and that can be very disruptive and very harsh. That's the way I did it. Don't recommend if you're dealing with all of life at the moment. So what I do is I help people transition a little more smoothly so that you can still work and still be with your family and not be completely in this mucky place that feels like you're in quicksand and you don't know how you're going to get out yet, because that's a complete life disruption. So I use subtle energy alchemy, meaning I'm shifting your energy in a subtle way so that you can continue to move through life seemingly uninterrupted. I mean,
Oh, right,
in,
right, right,
in
right,
order to change, we have to change, right? And so the paradox
right.
is we have to initiate some change. But if we could do it a little more smoothly with a lot more awareness and with the right tools, then it will be a little less stingy.
Right, right. Now, how do you? Okay, so you say that you take shadow work. Now, is this like I don't want to say kind of like coaching them along the way, and then do you actually get into their energy or bring them energy to heal, or how do you work?
So I have a few different ways I help people understand where they're at. Number one. So, one, it's about
Mhm.
awareness. We look for cycles. I always tell people if you want to start somewhere, find your cycles. Some people are like, I always have bad luck, or I get into accidents all the time, whether, car accidents or falling, whatever. That's a cycle. I'm always dating
Mhm.
the wrong person, and it's a certain kind of person. That's a cycle. Okay. So we look at cycles, and then we have to look at ancestry, because ancestral emotions are, to me, the most damaging because they continue to steamroll. You can accumulate I'll say the trauma of ancestors' emotions 62 generations back. That's a
Wow.
lot of emotion
Yes. Yeah.
handed down. So that's getting into epigenetics, but
Mhm.
that's a huge field of study right now. So just know that your emotions and your ancestors' emotions are two different things, and your ancestors' emotions play a bigger role, a bigger hidden role. And so
Mhm.
we try to look at who are you like in your family? Who are you opposite of in your family? Because everybody is like one of the parents and opposite one of
Mhm.
the parents. And so we look at that and the dynamic. And what you don't like about one parent is typically what you pick up because it's just kind of, or you date or marry. And so
Oh,
we
right.
look at, right? Yeah. And so we look at all of these parameters and then start to do things like meditation's huge,
Mhm,
movement is really big. And then I have like scripting and things to journal or write down to help move the emotions out, and then understanding why you're in this space. It always starts, I don't say always, but usually starts in childhood from like 5 to 7 years old. And from
wow.
that, we can go back in, we can change that scenario around, change the patterning, because all of your habits up to this point are based on emotions that have
Mhm,
created beliefs, that have created thoughts, and that create habits. So it's just about going in and being so much more aware of
mhm,
why you feel, I'm going to use air quotes, stuck, and then
right.
shifting your mindset and shifting the conscious and subconscious minds so that they can be coherent. Because all of disease, and
Mhm,
again, bad luck or things that you experience
mhm,
that you don't want to experience are incoherency, meaning mind, body, spirit are not coherent. They're out of alignment.
yeah.
Your soul knows what it wants, but your logical mind steps in with the ego and likes to shift things because the ego is a little nasty little bugger.
It is, absolutely, and I found this very fascinating. So, I'm gonna ask a question real quick, kinda back up a little bit. Okay, so you said that we have the emotions of our ancestors, and it goes back so far. Now, is that in our DNA? Is that what you're talking about? That whenever, or is it in our energy, or how does that work?
That's a great question. So it's not in our DNA in the way we think it's in our DNA. It's in our cellular memory, which some people say, well, that is DNA, and some people say, no, it's not technically. It's not the physical blueprint. It's the energetic blueprint that gets transferred over. And an example I really like to use is when people say they have heart disease in their family, and I'll say, okay, let's look at this because this is an easy one to dissect for me.
Right.
It's typically from lack of love, and lack of love affects the heart. So,
Mhm,
on an energetic level, love is really important. And if the heart, physical heart, is not receiving the love it needs, and for everybody that's different, but if it's not receiving the love it needs, it's not energetically strong. And so, therefore, the physical heart becomes weak. So, we look back and back and back and see, okay, well, what was the upbringing like? And, a lot of this actually comes from Depression era, and it just keeps getting handed down because there was so much stress at the time that a lot of the moms didn't know what to do. They were depressed. They were sad. They couldn't show the love
right.
because they just didn't have the energy to exert this emotion on their children. And so that kept
Mhm.
getting handed down over and over. So heart issues can be fixed because it's the energy of love that typically needs to be given.
Oh, wow. That is fascinating. And, I've got kind of developed another question. When people get transplants, like a heart transplant or liver, no, I guess, I don't know if they do. I guess they do liver transplants, but
Maybe.
the tissues. So, and I've heard that a lot of times I don't know if you feel the other person's energy, but I've heard, that they do go through a lot of emotions, because they can feel that exactly what you're talking about. Is it basically the same thing, or is it a little bit different?
Yeah, that's the same thing. So you're getting the
Okay,
cellular memory of that organ.
okay.
And so, especially with heart transplant, they're doing lots of research on that right now with transplants,
Mhm.
but they're showing people who have never even thought of smoking before are suddenly wanting to smoke, or,
Right.
all these different things that they all of a sudden want to experience, and they've never
Mhm.
thought of it before. And even the families are like, who is this person? And so you're getting the cellular
Right,
memory. It's
right.
that energy is connected. And I was just listening to a study researchers did on mice, and they took male mice and they exposed them to cherry blossom scent. And then they would like shock them, give them a shock to their body.
Mhm,
And they kept doing this over and over. And then they took however they do this, they inseminated female
mhm.
mice with the male mice DNA. And the babies were born, never introduced to the fathers. And they gave the baby mice the scent of cherry blossom and they went into a fear state also. So that is epigenetics right there. So that's scientifically
Oh,
proven. Yeah, fascinating.
and I can tell that is this your passion? Because
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh, I've seen that research. I've read that research."
Yeah. Just a little.
It's like, I know all about it, and it's good that you keep up with it because that tells us about, your passion of how you wanna help people. Now, do you think you would have gotten into this, if you were not diagnosed with MS?
Probably not. No, I
Yeah,
see it as a
right,
gift. I went
right.
through a pretty bad divorce also. That helped.
Oh,
That helped a lot also because,
right, right.
you
Right.
know,
Well,
you have to
and a
overcome.
lot of times, yeah, and what I tell people is you go through those experiences a lot of time. It's like a stepping stone to get you where you need to be. Like what you're saying, align what your soul wants into your life. And even though there's a lot of emotionality and you're going, why in the hell did I have to go through that? Well, again, that was always for a purpose, and we're all here to learn as well. So I found
Absolutely.
that very, very fascinating. And you're still a firefighter right now?
Yes. Yes, I am.
So
20.
what do your oh, okay. So what do your, peer firefighters think when you talk about it?
Oh, well, that's an interesting question because I kept it hidden for a long time. And, a lot of this has
Right,
developed over the years. So it's not like I
right.
just suddenly thought all this stuff.
Yeah,
But now they know. And, I'll be like, "Oh, the moon's in retrograde today," and they're like, "Okay, moon's in retrograde, so be prepared." They know. Some of them follow me on TikTok. Oh, it's
right.
like,
Well, good and good for you because that's your authentic self, and I know what you mean because I kept myself hidden as well for a long time. And people, once you come out, don't you feel like, it's much easier than you thought it would be? And I think they're so much more accepting
yes,
then, and the ones that are not there to support you anyway. And the reason why I had to ask you that question is because my husband is a firefighter.
oh, fantastic. Okay.
And and my son is as well. So
Oh, wow. Well, then you get the lifestyle.
so yes, I understand completely. And I know they always like to it's almost like well, and I told my husband, it's almost like a college fraternity and to me that's that just describes and it's wonderful because you do support each other because your life depends on each other, and it becomes a brotherhood and a sisterhood as well. So
Yep.
good for you for coming out,
Yep.
and explaining what you do. And so yeah, so tell us as well because I saw that you also do you're a certified flow breathing coach. I
Yes.
mean, you
So
just lots of talent here.
okay. I like learning. Um, So that is flow code, and what it is, it's a bunch of different breathing techniques, which I've actually expanded upon what that one involves. I do love breathing techniques, so it's just a bunch of different breathing techniques to help. Some are for meditative purposes, some are for expanding the capacity of the lungs, some are to just
Right.
decrease stress, and that's actually I started with box breathing before box breathing was called box breathing. Um,
So
and
what's box breathing?
so that's the breathe in 4, hold for 4, exhale
Oh,
4,
okay.
hold for 4.
Okay. Gotcha.
And before podcasts were even a thing, I don't even know where I heard this on, but they're like, oh, just try box breathing. And I literally did box breathing for 1 minute a day. And within the week, I was like, oh, God, I feel so much better. And that's how my breathing journey began. I was like, oh, there is something to this breathing thing. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I started there
Absolutely.
and it
Yeah.
just, it snowballed.
Yeah. And I agree with you because I think, when you're the most stressed and you don't realize it, just taking, like you said, the box breathing or just taking that one big breath and just shooting it out. And I know that is how yoga really helped me get to know my own energy. And with yoga, you're breathing constantly. Those breathing exercise. And the ancient people have been doing the breathing exercises for centuries. And so I think it's very healthy because I know I went to the doctor and they took I can't remember why they took a x-ray of my lungs, but they go, you have the biggest lungs. And I was,
Thank
because I
you.
was so active in yoga, and I
That's
think that's
awesome.
probably why.
That's
So it
awesome.
does make it you very, very healthy. So is there anything about, oh, I know what it is about your business. I saw that you do retreats as well.
I do. I have one coming up actually this
Oh,
month.
tell us about it. That's
Yeah, I'm
perfect
so excited.
timing.
It's so Soulful Self Discovery Retreat, and it's in Joshua Tree in a 4,000 square foot villa. We have a private chef, and essentially the whole idea is to help you uncover the feelings of being stuck and
Mhm,
reintroducing yourself to your authentic side and remembering who you really are and releasing whatever's not serving you anymore. So, for a lot of women, it's like this guilt of taking care of everybody and, working and taking care of everybody and doing all of it. And it's like,
mhm.
that's not how we're supposed to be living. You got
Right,
to take care of
right.
yourself too. And so
Mhm,
it's a little just getaway of just recharging, remembering just how amazing you are and taking care of you first. Because if you can't take care of you first, then everything else will start to fall away eventually and you'll get sick. And so,
mhm,
breast cancer is incredibly prevalent, and that's typically found in people who are perfectionists and who also need to constantly help other people out of
mhm,
like almost martyrdom, and
mhm.
because they don't want to address their own issues, so they help other people first.
Uh-huh. Absolutely, yes. Oh, and I think it's wonderful too, because you have a group that are going through the same experience and the same healing. But you're right. A lot of a lot of us as empaths, we tend to want to please people all the time, and then that's what gets us into trouble a lot of times because, like you said, we're not healing ourselves. So, is there anything else that we did not talk about that you wanted to bring up?
Um, yeah, so I'll just say, just it's kind of summing up everything we talked about. So
Mhm,
your body, your organs hold on to certain emotions. So, for example, liver loves anger, and it will feed off of it. And anger is a big umbrella term. So there's impatience, passive aggressive, and of course rage, which people think right away. But there's so many people who are passive aggressive right now. Fear feeds on the kidneys and the bladder, and so different emotions attached to different organs. So I love knowing what kind of physical symptoms you have because I can go and say, oh, you know what? I bet you're dealing with this right now. And so then that's how a lot of my client sessions start is like, okay, I see this and, I have knee pain. Okay, well, you're stubborn, or, whatever. So we start to dig into like, why is everything this way for you? Let's see what the patterns were. And so with the heart, though, it loves to hold on to all the emotions. And this is where ego comes in. So the more emotions that we don't process, the more it goes around the heart. If you think of an artichoke, it's got all those leaves on the outside. And the more emotions you don't process, the more leaves you have. And really, what you want to get down to in the artichoke is the heart of the artichoke, because that's the best part. And so, with all these leaves on there, and you keep adding on more, we have a lot more work to do to remove these leaves to get to the heart. The heart is the pure you. But when you have all these leaves on, ego acts on your behalf, of course, to save you from social media embarrassment or an argument with your spouse or whatever. No more proverbial tiger, right? We're not running from tigers anymore. But whatever the ego is trying to protect you from, they're not real life emergencies anymore, right? So every time you don't process something, you get a leaf around that heart. And now we have to peel back these layers, and we can only peel back so much at a time. But it's really important to understand that when you don't process, and then you can experience the same things over and over again, like the same type of emotion over and over again, you just keep adding on more layers and more layers. And in order to get down to who you really are, you have to address all those layers. And then we get to the heart of who you are, which is pure love and joy and beauty.
I absolutely love that because that example is so concrete. You can actually picture it in your mind, peeling back that onion. So I absolutely love that. Okay, so what I always love to ask towards the end before we go to the wheel of questions, is there an inspiration quote that or any, inspiration that you want to tell people to carry on and use that stubbornness streak? So what would you tell people that need some pushing?
Well, one thing that got me through, and I don't know if this is so much inspirational, but it did help me a lot in all of my struggles, and that was this too shall pass. Remember, everything is temporary. Your emotions are temporary. What you're going through is temporary. It's all very, very temporary. And so this too shall pass is maybe something that will help you if you're struggling with something right now. Breathe, and this too shall pass.
I love it. And you know what? It's always a new day, isn't it?
It's always a new day.
It's always a new day. All right. Are you ready for the wheel? The last question. Yay! I know it's like, am I going to win anything? I always say that. Okay, so let me go ahead and spin it. Oh,
Oh
all right.
man,
So,
greatest
what is your
accomplishment.
greatest? Yes.
Wow.
I know.
You know what?
Girl,
Oof.
you got a
No.
bunch.
This is a tough one. I mean, it could be anything, right? Wow.
Yeah.
Um, honestly, I'm going to say, um, surviving. My ex threw me in jail, and I was in jail for
Oh, okay.
24 hours, and I
Mhm.
could have let that send me into victim mode, but I chose to rise above and become a better person out of it. And while I wouldn't wish it on anyone, it was a blessing in disguise because now I have this beautiful life. And so my greatest accomplishment was rising above that and allowing that situation to give me the impetus for doing what I'm doing today. Because otherwise, I would be maybe still kind of
Mhm.
stuck in a pattern of victimhood.
Right. Well, and thank you so much for being so honest and sharing that with us because I know it's hard to kind of, you feel very vulnerable when you share it, but so many people will hear that and be inspired by it. So I appreciate that.
Well,
And
thank
I
you.
appreciate you for coming on.
I
So
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Oh, tell us where everybody can reach you.
Oh, sure. My website is consciousevolution.coach and same on Facebook, Conscious Evolution Coach, and same on TikTok. All
Okay. Yeah, I've seen some of your videos. It's like, "Oh, she is so fun." I did see that one where you had the pots and the pans and you were like
yeah.
I have to bring that up. So
Yep.
so yes, it's a serious, Facebook page, but also a little bit of fun.
Oh, yeah. Gotta have fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for watching and listening to the Michelle's Inspiration Hour, and I will see you next time.